So, some fans are angry about tonight's draft lottery result. The draft lottery's been around since 1995, so I figured I'd load up a page on this. 95, the teams, the last place team in the NHL is Ottawa. LA wins the lottery. Ottawa's still drafted first, got Brian Berard. Ottawa's last in 96. They won the lottery. They got Chris Phillips. Boston's last in 97. They win the lottery and get Joe Thornton. 98. Tampa's the last place team. San Jose wins the lottery through trades. Tampa Bay gets that first round pick anyways, and Vinny LeCavalier is a Tampa Bay Lightning member. 99. Tampa's the last place team again. Chicago wins the lottery, but Atlanta ended up picking first and getting Patrick Steffen. That's in the same draft where the Sedins entered the NHL. 2000, Atlanta's the worst team in the league. The Islanders win the lottery and they pick Rick DiPietro. The Islanders were the worst team in 2001. Atlanta won the lottery and they got Ilya Kovalchuk. This jersey right here. 2002, Atlanta. Florida traded the pick to Columbus, who got Rick Nash. Carolina, Florida. They trade the pick to Pittsburgh, who get Marc-Andre Fleury. 2004, Pittsburgh, last place team. Washington wins the lottery, drafts Ovechkin. Pittsburgh drafts Evgeny Malkin that year. 2005, season canceled. Pittsburgh wins the lottery again by getting Crosby right after Malkin. We know how that turns out. 2006, St. Louis is last, win the lottery, and they get Erik Johnson. 2007, Philadelphia's last. Chicago wins the lottery, and they draft Patrick Kane. 2008, Tampa's last, win the lottery, and draft Steven Stamkos. 2009, Islanders, last place, win the lottery, John Tavares. 2010, Edmonton's last, win the lottery, Taylor Hall. 2011, Edmonton's last, Jersey wins the lottery. Edmonton gets that number one draft pick anyways, and draft Nugent Hopkins. 2012, last place team's Columbus. Edmonton wins the lottery, and they draft Nail Yakupov. 2013, Florida's last. Colorado wins the lottery, and they draft Nathan MacKinnon. 2014, Buffalo's last. Florida wins the lottery. Aaron Ekblad is drafted by the Panthers. And then, of course, famously, and this is why the rules were changed, 2015, Buffalo's last. Edmonton wins the lottery, and Connor McDavid is an Edmonton Oiler. And then last year, the lottery that nobody seems to mind, Toronto, last place, win the lottery, and they draft Austin Matthews. These guys win the lottery tonight. Kovalchuk's coming back to the NHL, and his contract still belongs to these guys. The Devils are in a position right now to get much better very, very quickly. Whether they draft Nolan Patrick and talk Ilya Kovalchuk into returning to the Devils, or they trade Ilya Kovalchuk for some pieces that they can use to rebuild and get back into a playoff position, the Devils could get better fast. Philadelphia and Dallas, both teams that fell out of the playoffs, likely return to the playoffs next year without these top draft picks, and that's what people are upset about. But here's the thing. Tanking happens. Now, I've had Canucks fans say, oh, the Canucks didn't tank this year. And I'm holding the microphone close so everybody can hear me loud and clear this video, because this is important. The Canucks absolutely tanked this year. At the trade deadline, they were, I think, 5 or 6 points out. They fell from about 23rd overall to 29th. Oddly enough, if they'd stayed up where Dallas ended up, they would have drafted in the top 3. And right now, Canuck fans would be doing backflips and saying we finally get a break. Thank God we didn't tank. Thank God we did well after the trade deadline. No. After the deadline, there was a clear directive from up above saying to Coach Willie Desjardins, slit your own throat by playing all the kids. We're trading away your vets in Hansen and Burrows, which made a huge difference. Ottawa fans right now are finding out Burrows is a damn good player and can hold your team together by doing things that don't show up on the score sheet. And for a team that was already hurting for depth, the Canucks couldn't afford to lose both guys and stay competitive. Nope. The Canucks needed that top draft pick. I have no issue with that whatsoever. They absolutely needed it. They tanked to get 29th. Canuck fans down the stretch were like, oh, please let them lose. We want them to finish behind Arizona. We'd want that top draft pick. The NHL, after the Connor McDavid fiasco, and it was a fiasco with teams, with Buffalo trading away good players to make sure they stayed bad, and Edmonton doing nothing to turn things around, the NHL said, all right, we're going to change the odds, make it more difficult for the last place team to get that number one draft pick, and we're going to have the top 3 choices picked by lottery. And now we're seeing what happens. Now, I expect downvotes. I expect Canuck fans to say, oh no, this lottery's crap, and if they'd won the lottery, my opinion wouldn't be changed. Absolutely would be. I get it. If you watch that video with the live reaction, I was not happy when the Canucks came up at number 5. Vegas fans can't be happy that they showed up at 6. And you know, like I said, I know I'm going to get downvotes for this, but we were all mad when Edmonton got Connor McDavid. Remember Canuck fans saying, oh, this isn't fair. The Oilers are crap, so they're getting Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Now they're getting Connor McDavid. Of course, the Oilers are going to win it. Next year, the Oilers are going to win it too. How is that different from Canuck fans cheering for losses down the stretch to get that top draft pick? Dallas kind of tanked too, but somebody forgot to tell Kerry Lehtinen, because Lehtinen decided to play better down the stretch because he wants to have a job next year. And he seemed to understand that he'd been crap all year and he needed to get his act together, and he did. And his stats by the end of the year weren't completely embarrassing. They weren't great, but they weren't completely embarrassing. And now Dallas gets to draft in the top 3. And I'll do a mock draft tomorrow, and for people who are saying, oh, we're done, this has screwed us up. Number 1 draft picks don't necessarily mean you're getting better. Let's just take a look over these wins, okay? Brian Berard was a good defenseman, but you know, he was never a fantastic defenseman, and then he was the unfortunate eye injury, and he was never the same after that. Chris Phillips, very good, hardworking defenseman, but number 1 overall. Joe Thornton was great after a while. Vinny LeCavalier, very good player, fantastic. Patrick Steffen? No. Rick DiPietro? No. Rick Nash. Ask Columbus fans about Rick Nash and how many cups they won with him. Marc-Andre Fleury looks great in Pittsburgh, admittedly. Alex Ovechkin, he's got to be frustrated in Washington. Probably wishes Pittsburgh had that number 1 draft pick that year and drafted him. Crosby, that's a success story. Eric Johnson for St. Louis. Success, I guess. Patrick Kane, absolutely huge success for Chicago. Stamkos, big win for Tampa. John Tavares. The Islanders were really bad to get Tavares, and at best with Tavares, they've been middle of the pack. Taylor Hall, he yielded Adam Larson. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, third-line center right now. Nail Yakupov, really? Nail Yakupov, Nathan McKinnon, he still has never fulfilled his potential. Aaron Ekblad, very fantastic defenseman. And then you have Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. I think the thing here is that, you know, Nolan Patrick and Nico Hischier are kind of neck and neck for 1. And the idea is that whether you get a guy at 1 or you get a guy at 2, you're getting that top line center potentially. But if it had been last year's draft, both either Hischier or Patrick probably go about 5 or 6 overall. I don't think this is a draft to get that upset about. There isn't that big franchise guy. There isn't that Crosby, Ovechkin, Eichel, Connor McDavid, any of that kind of player. This draft is a decent draft. But when I'm hearing things like scouts see maybe 5 or 6 guys who'll score 20 goals in the NHL and that's about it, somebody's wrong. There's going to be guys in 3rd, 4th, and 5th round who prove the scouts wrong. But that's where depth in drafting comes in. And if anybody's been paying attention to the Canucks since Benning took over, their wins haven't been in the first round. They've been in the later rounds. So the sky is falling, people. Whether you're a Colorado fan, Vancouver fan, or a Vegas fan, if you have good scouts who are worth their weight in gold, sort of like the old Detroit Red Wings, you're okay. There are lots of teams who move down because 3 teams outside the top 3 won at the draft. And this is what the draft lottery was supposed to be. This is what the draft lottery was supposed to be. And I'm fine with it. Does it screw the Canucks? Yep. Did the Canucks tank? Absolutely. I went to the Canucks game against the Kings towards the end of the year. Wow. That was a tanking team. At no point in the game did they look like a threat to score a goal, much less win a game. So, you know, to me, a draft lottery that rewards that and favors that, there's already the favor in there in that they have a better percentage chance of winning. And sure, it sucks moving down to 5, same as last year. But if Juolevi turns out to be the defenseman that he projects to be, it's going to be a good thing. It is really hard to find top 4 defensemen. And I think the Canucks are in a position to draft another one after they drafted Juolevi, who projects to be a top 4 defenseman. And if they draft, and Liljegren's the name that's been out there all year, and I'll say it right now, I could see Liljegren being there. But here's the other thing, too. So New Jersey wins the draft lottery. Since it's not a great draft, top 5 picks are going to be in play. So when people say Philly doesn't even need the pick, right. Maybe Philly trades down. Maybe Philly looks at Vancouver and says, hey guys, you want Hischier or Patrick, right? We kind of want Liljegren. Let's sit down and talk. So the Canucks throw in whatever. And they pick number 2. And we're all forgetting about this in a couple of months. The draft lottery draw is the start, not the finish. So before anybody decides, I give up, I'm done, this is stupid, remember, trades are going to happen between now and the trade deadline. Or, well, between now and the lottery and the draft. That's the word I'm looking for, draft. So when those trades happen, it's going to change the whole thing. And you've still got the expansion draft between now and the entry draft. So a lot of pieces are in play right now. If this was a draft where a Connor McDavid, an Austin Matthews, a Jack Eichel were available, I would be just as angry as the rest of you. This is not that draft. This is not the draft to get all up in arms and say, I give up, screw the NHL, screw all this, I'm done. Because I don't see a generational talent in this draft. I haven't seen any projected out, and I've seen guys who, in the bottom 5 of the top 10, could potentially be just as good as the guys in the top 5. I think it's going to be one of those drafts. I think there's going to be a lot of second liners. I think there's going to be a lot of number 3 and number 4 defensemen. I think there's going to be a lot of guys who could surprise later. A lot of those late bloomers, those 4th, 5th round picks. And if you have a good scouting staff, they will get those guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, Canuck fans, don't get too upset yet. The sky has not fallen. The day is not as dark as it may seem, although it's nighttime outside right now, so don't look outside right now if you're watching this right when I post it, because it's nighttime and you may get very upset. But it will get better. And whoever they pick, whether they pick Patrick, Hischier, or Liljegren at 5, or whoever they pick, it's all part and parcel to making the team better. And again, because teams that don't need a top-line forward got 2 and 3 in the draft, they will likely listen to offers for those draft picks. Don't fret. It's not over. It's just not over. Click like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. I will be talking to you all again tomorrow.